Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Ryan Steva. We are doing the Resilient Living podcast. I'm here with my co-host Jared Wilson and my personal friend Nicole Sauce. Today, Nicole is going to be talking to us about her experience raising sheep and specifically what she's gone through, what she's figured out, lessons learned, that kind of thing. So, welcome, Nicole.
Hello, how's it going today?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for coming out here and joining us out on site.
Happy to be here.
So we were talking a little bit pre-show about what kinds of things, like really what your lessons learned are and what things you've run into. Tell me just a little bit about what you're doing with sheep, how that's gone and what you've thought of it so far.
Get sheep, they said. It will be easy, they said. You will just get meat from grass. And all you have to do is just rotate them with a single strand of wire. And you've seen my house, so that's not how that went down at all. That is people who have relatively flat land and really well-trained sheep. So I love my sheep. And I think they're a great way to build resilience into your life and a great way to, in fact, turn your pasture into meat without a lot of extra inputs. But like any livestock, the biggest lesson I had to learn first is that no veterinarian is there to help, which means I'm the veterinarian, which means you find yourself challenged to do things you never thought you would do from a medical intervention standpoint, which is fine. Luckily, I had read All Creatures Great and Small more than one time as a child, and all of the books in the series. And you wouldn't think that's like what you default to, right? But I had also read the medical books on the sheep when we got the sheep. But when it came right down to it, and I had to do things like help with birthing or something, it was those stories going through my head and remembering how descriptive that they were in that book that got me through, because the last thing I was doing was running back up the hill, pulling the book off the shelf and looking at how do I do this? And so I actually, if you're going to get into sheep, I would definitely say read those books or at least listen to them, because it will help. But the other thing is that they regenerate the land really wonderfully. We have a washed out part that we call the wash of my drive. It's not really a driveway, but it's like a water runoff thing that you drive through when there's not water in it, which is most of the time. As you can imagine, that's bare rock, right?
Yes.
Not anymore. It's been 3 years, and we do rotate the sheep through there because they just have to go across and we leave it open. And because they've been grazing and pooping and grazing and pooping, we're seeing the grasses close in like a scab.
Awesome.
Which is really interesting. So the transformation on the land by rotating them, which is more work than just putting them in a pasture and leaving them in one place, which you can also do. That has been phenomenal to see. And then just the fertility in the land around me has been going up and up since they came in. So
yeah. Well, I like to analogize sheep oftentimes, or ruminants in general, to an ark. Like they carry the microbiome of the soil when the soil isn't able to. Maybe it's too hot, it's too cold, things aren't able to really live. They carry it, and that's amazing to see that the soil is regenerating in such a way that it's actually building back up on top of the rock layer. How many people would be ecstatic to know they could put soil back, build it up quickly without nearly as much input or outside input as they would otherwise think. That's pretty cool.
Just to nerd out further on that topic. So the microbiome of a really healthy compost pile matches the gut of the sheep, which kind of matches the gut, what we need. And it's all the same.
Yeah.
And that's something, when I realized that, I thought, wow, it's almost as if it was a design.
Yeah, almost. I remember listening to Elaine Ingham once talk about soil health and the microbiome, and how the microbiome matches our skin biome as well. And so one of her recommendations was for somebody who's struggling with skin issues, especially like fungal based issues, was to take a bath in, basically make compost tea in their bathtub and take a bath in it. I was like, that sounds really interesting. I have not yet tried that, but it makes sense. And it's amazing how all these systems tie together, and we want to separate them and break them apart when what we should be doing is integrating them for health of ourselves, our soil, and our animals.
And that's why today, when the TVA walked up to my door and asked me if they could spray above my house, I said no. And I told a lie. I said I had bees. And I don't have bees right now.
He
said, bees. Where are they? I'm like, they're down there. That actually was not technically a lie. There were 100% bees in that direction.
Yes.
Just not in the hive.
That's right. I mean, there's hundreds of varieties of bees in your pasture. So technically true, I think.
Yeah. Well, technically, but I think the guy knew I was lying too. I have bees, you can't spray. And then he like pulled out a map. Which property do you own? And I should have been a little more assertive. It just didn't occur to me because I own this, but I lease that, and I own that, and I lease that. So it's like the whole street.
Yeah.
Which is not untrue. But I didn't know if I would be backed up by one of those property owners. Now I know I would have been. But
good to know now.
Yeah.
So in getting sheep, did you have like your biggest, like one biggest surprise that you could point to, or one biggest thing that was out of the ordinary?
Positive or negative?
Both.
My biggest surprise was that I jump into things with both feet and had not done enough research on how shocking it is to sheep to move from one place to another. So what I should have done was be feeding them hay and give them limited access to pasture. What I did was throw them on pasture, and one of them passed away within the first week because it was a shock to the balance in their gut. And that was super sad. So that was a negative thing. I think I had no idea how much I love the birthing baby process of the sheep. So I actually, there's been a lot of births we've had to assist with at this point, and we've had some negative outcomes and some positive outcomes, but that whole process of just that new life springing out is super exciting to me. So I wasn't expecting that.
That's very cool. I wouldn't expect that either personally. It's kind of a nerve-wracking thing to me, it seems like. But you mentioned the books that you read, and are those are they fiction or are they not?
That's a great question. They are fiction written by a veterinarian based on things that happened about his life as a country veterinarian.
Okay.
So and there's a lot of cow sheep things that happen in there.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's a lot of value in finding something that has truth, but is wrapped up in a story or a narrative. Because when you read the Encyclopedia of Country Living, it doesn't stick well, right? It's dry. Yeah, it's dry. It's boring. So I think that's a great tip to read something that is written by a knowledgeable person, but in a story format.
Yeah. And when it's written, like the steps taken to turn a lamb in utero and those sorts of things are very descriptively described, laid out there within the context of story. So it's also very accurate, I guess is probably the best way to say it. This year we had our first rounds of hypothermia. My bad. You're supposed to wean the boys out by 3 months. We went 3 months and 2 weeks. We had some unexpectedly early births as a result of that particular mistake. And so we were getting the sheep when it was plunging down to 0 sometimes, just flukishly here during that week. And I lost my first lamb to hypothermia that I brought her back once and then put her back out with her mom and should have just taken her in at night for the first few nights. But after that experience, when we had another one with hypothermia, I just brought him back. And when you're doing that with a hypothermic lamb, they look like they're gone. Like they're still breathing, but you're like, oh no, there's no way. And then their body temperature comes back up and they come back up, and you know it's all going to work when they start screaming at you. But it's not too bad. But so with that one, what we ended up doing for about a week was, when it was warm enough during the day, putting him with his mom in the barn, and then bringing him in when it was nighttime, like dinner time for the sheep sort of thing. And then he'd stay in the dog crate in my living room all night. And then the next day he'd go back out with his mom, and that worked fine. But I will say he is the smallest one out of everybody. So the other thing to know, if you're raising the sheep and really, really, really care about the profit, that one I should have just let die.
Mm-hmm.
He's not passing his genetics on to anybody for sure. But at our scale, I find that some intervention is worth it, because, you know, that one will be one that we probably keep for us when processing day comes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you get to the point of like a Greg Judy, and he culls anything he can, basically any excuse he has to cull something. But when you have, 10, 20 sheep, it's a little harder to excuse that, especially when you have the capability of raising them. But yeah, when you get to higher scale, that makes more sense. Looks like we have a question.
We have a question. Ooh, that sun is bright. All right. How many sheep did you start out with, and what breeds?
So our sheep are St. Croix, although we have 2 that have a little bit of Katahdin in them.
Okay.
And we got them because of Self-Reliance Festival. So we knew we wanted sheep, and Tactical was walking around talking about how, well, we wanted to find St. Croix sheep. And Dawn Sutton, who we got the sheep from, was walking by and said, I have sheep for sale, because she wanted to move from Ohio to a new homestead. And so they backed in with 11 sheep, one of which she had asked me if I wanted her to process him before, because he was a jerk. Henry. We did eat like of Henry later. He was just such a pretty ram, and I wanted him to pass his genetics on. And then I got to know him, and I was like, no, I don't actually want your genetic. But so that's what we started with. Right now we have 23. I'm going to process 10 in October, and an 11th a few months after that. And hopefully we'll have at least that many again by the spring. So it's time, this time of year, and I'm only breeding them once a year. Optimal production, you can go twice a year. I like to give the moms a break personally. So we'll breed them. We'll start breeding them in October, and then March, April births are better than December, January births for me. Although a lot of sheep people do the cold, and they just swear by, if it dies, then the genetics were bad. So, but we have taken the attitude that if an animal needs help, they don't pass on their genes to the flock. And we do have one of our ewes is throwing babies that get prolapses if they get pregnant. And we have it narrowed down to it's one of 2 right now. And so we're kind of tempted this year they'll give birth, right? Those ones we will probably breed and find out based on tracking genetics who is who. We didn't track genetics well enough the first year either. That there was a lot going on.
So what is
I love spreadsheets so much.
Right. What is your ratio of rams to use?
From a breeding standpoint?
Yeah.
I have 1 ram.
Okay.
And the rest are ewes. So we have 8 ewes right now and 1 ram. Well, and then we have a lot of rams from that, but all of the males are going. Everybody who was born accidentally, male or female, is going, because we have no idea who, what, where.
Right.
Yeah. So those are all going to the breeder, to the processor, or we'll process some on site too. I think we're going to do a sheep processing class.
Ooh, cool.
So, and I only scheduled for 10 to be processed, and I know I have 12 to process at least. So
there's a couple.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we really harp on, and I know you do too on your podcast, is community and building community, and that self-reliance in and of itself is kind of a lie, that we need other people who have skills and knowledge and resources. What has been Like, how have you needed or relied on community in dealing with sheep?
I couldn't do anything without community. As sad as that sounds, as the self-reliance chick, right? I can do a lot by myself, but whenever something comes up that's unusual with the sheep, being able to reach out to other people who have sheep is super important. So at first I had Dawn, who we bought the sheep from. And then our friends at Renegade Homestead, they got sheep and they knew different things than I did. I've asked Billy and Michelle Bond a couple of times when things come up. So from that standpoint, it's helpful. But there's actually a much bigger thing where when things go wrong with the fencing, which I know never happens to anybody but me.
Yeah, it's only you.
Only
nobody,
me.
Nobody else.
And they're all out. So because in the holler, we have multiple people who are invested in growing healthy, regenerative food. I have on instant access, immediate neighbors who can come out and help
Nice.
herd the sheep most of the time. And then I have other neighbors who I know really. I've made it a purposeful endeavor to know everybody all up and down my road. Some of them get along with me better than others. That's fine. None of us are mean to each other. There's no feud going on. And they'll come out and help when they can. And this has helped me a ton with sheep because sometimes I get the call, your sheep are in the road. I love the look on his face for that one. He was just like, oh, yeah, your sheep or your LGDs are out again, Nicole. And then they'll help us herd them back into the fenced area. So that's like a really tangible thing. But I think much more important than that, it goes beyond sheep. And it's on the days when you're having a dirty, rotten, no good day, having the community to remind you that it's just a day and the next day is coming is more important. And having people you can just sit down and, we just did the cheese class at the Holler Hub this weekend. So my first 2 signups for that class lived on my road. They're like, eating cheese and I can bring a bottle of wine if I want. This sounds fantastic, right? They make wine.
Okay.
So then they let everybody at the class who wanted to taste the wine. And it kind of turned into this whole, everybody who came had a different thing they brought to the table, even though they were paying to be at the class, right? Scott Armstrong was there doing a video about like the whole project we're working on. Jem Bowman was there, like a whole bunch of, Carrie did a wild edible walk. We had Chef Ken. And I think that's why it's important to get beyond your comfort zone and go out and talk to people and just listen with an open heart to what is that, what's that person's secret sauce and how can we complement each other with our secret sauce? Because we're all good at different things. And a lot of life happens in ways where you, in fact, do need community resilience, not just self-reliance. Right. And if you're on your own as a self-reliant person and the world melts down and the zombies come and you're behind that counter over there with one gun, you're toast. You're done. So
it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
No.
And I don't think humans were made to operate all by themselves.
No.
Even though we fantasize about it, especially we introverts.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a level of it's easier for me just to do it in a lot of cases, right? Whereas inviting somebody else in, hearing their ideas that maybe I know 50% of can be hard to listen and be as respectful and responsive as I should be, because I'm like, I know this, I'm just going to tune out for a minute, but other people's perspectives are so valuable. Yeah. And just having, for a great example is I've got a client, he's also a friend, but I help him set up certain systems on his homestead. And one of the things that we kind of brainstormed together was he had this idea of overwintering turmeric and ginger. And I'm like, okay, well, how can we do that? And so we talked about it a couple of different ways, bounced ideas off of each other. And then he just went and did it. And he tried a few of those ideas in a couple different patches, figured out what worked and what didn't work. And now he's in Tennessee overwintering turmeric, and could I say I overall know more than him? Probably. But he has a perspective, a drive, a desire to do something that I didn't have the desire to do. And he has the curiosity to try it. And that community, having that kind of community is invaluable. People who want to try things, and other people will support them in that. Yeah. And sheep, my neighbor literally across the road, I had a sheep. Somebody drove by a couple days ago and they're like, there's a sheep on its back going like this with its legs.
Oh, no.
Looks like it might be in some kind of coma or something.
Yeah, that sounds like bloat.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't, but my neighbor's not home.
Oh no.
But I'm close enough. I know her. I know I can go into her pasture. She's introduced me to her dog. Turns out her new livestock guardian dog was chasing the sheep and had exhausted this one to such an extent, like biting its ears and things, that the sheep was on its like almost entirely catatonic.
Oh.
And so it's doing this out of like, I don't know.
Last resort.
Yeah.
Well, and on their back, they'll suffocate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, just having a neighbor close enough who knows you to go over and flip the sheep over and get it some water, it's really important. And, we've had stuff like that too. That same neighbor has helped me on multiple circumstances when I've needed help with things too. So, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of community and getting to know your neighbors.
I mean, in fact, something I want to run by you is, as part of this, we have the base camp lodge at the center. We're doing classes and then setting up the grounds around it. You just brought 4 chickens over for the cute chicken. He brought chickens who let people touch them. It's not like my
Nice.
chickens. Yeah. So people can experience that sort of link with livestock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we want to put cabins or camping cabins in, and Tactical found online these covered wagon cabins that if we buy one will be like $30,000. So that's not going to happen, right?
Right.
So how do we make a cut sheet for that? And because wouldn't it be cool to like sleep in a little covered wagon thing, and then you have
Sure.
to walk to the outhouse? But but I don't want to like jump in on this project without some idea of a cut sheet and what lumber we may need, and
Mhm.
how do we keep the canvas from leaking when it rains 6 inches in an hour, which it does in Tennessee. But I also thought it'd be cool to have 1 or 2 of those around. And if we can get them on actual axles, then if we have to move them, we can move them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
It'll be fun to show you a picture of that and see what you thought. Like, how do we build something like this?
Yeah. And how do you put all the pieces together before you, mentally, maybe on a piece of paper, write it all down, figure out the actual cost, and is the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah. Or can we
worth
get
it?
like covered wagon sponsors?
There you go. Sponsored by.
Put in $500 and get X number of days in the
Hey.
wagon.
There you go.
Put some screens in the wagon, then flash pictures of the sponsor.
Advertisement. Yeah. There you
Yeah, exactly. I bet people would like that while they're trying to sleep.
Yeah, they'd love it. Well, I mean, we will probably have light bulbs in there and solar panels to begin with.
Mhm.
Sure.
My first thing was like, how are we going to air condition that? Because I know me, I would not stay in a covered wagon in August in Tennessee personally, because I know what it's like.
Right.
But other people don't care as much as I do. That's what I was told.
I don't know if that's true, but you can certainly get battery powered fans,
Yes.
Yeah.
solar charged battery
Yeah.
powered fans. So that's an option.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to stay in there in August
Nope.
willingly either. But
No.
Not preferably.
Yeah.
So can you explain what a hair sheep is and good and bad about hair sheeps specifically?
There are 2 kinds of sheep when you think about hair and not hair sheep. A hair sheep grows its wool,
Mhm.
basically. And then in the spring, as it starts heating up, it just falls out naturally. And you end up with a beautiful, freshly sheared looking sheep that didn't have to be sheared.
No effort. I like
No effort. Also, no lanolin.
Oh,
And that's actually germane to how the meat tastes, because sheep that produce lanolin, that there is a different flavor in the meat
interesting.
because of that. So that is hair sheep. The wool sheep, they become the puff balls that you see with the little legs that look like they're this long and the body's that big until you shear it, and then it looks like a sheep. They have to be sheared. They will not do well if they are not sheared. And the wool from that is superior for spinning. It has more lanolin in it.
Sure.
And the benefits of different types is this. So with the wool sheep, you end up getting another product you can sell, which is wool.
Yeah.
However, you're going to sell it for less than you're paying the guy to shear the sheep. So unless you're shearing the sheep,
So it's a net loss. It's not.
Unless you're shearing the sheep, it's not really a thing. But I met a woman at Kentucky Sustainable Living, which was like last month, I think, or 2 months ago. And she's near the southeast corner of Tennessee. And she's raising wool sheep. And she's shearing them, and she's dealing with the fiber. So if you're passionate about it, it could turn into a whole thing. Like, you could start doing classes. You could start selling your yarn, all of it, right? So that's one. The hair sheep are less likely to get fly strike and other of that kind of parasite. So a fly lands on it, lays eggs, they get these nasty sores full of maggots.
Ew.
In a wool sheep, you don't know that's going on until you know that's going on. The hair sheep, that's not really a thing unless there's an open wound that a fly got in to begin with. And so the St. Croix that I got, and the reason I got St. Croix is they deal with the heat better, and it's hot here, and they are better with the parasite load, both from the fly strike standpoint, but they're also resistant to our local parasites. So what I know about sheep from raising sheep is that wherever you are in the country, go talk to sheep farmers and talk to the veterinarians about the different breeds and who does well and who needs a lot of intervention, and choose your breed appropriate to where you are, because you may in fact want wool sheep in Wisconsin. I don't even know, but there are parts of the country where that would be preferable to a St. Croix. And the other thing about knowing your local veterinarian, if you get a livestock veterinarian that travels, is they understand, if they're good and have been around a while, they understand the soil. So we had enough coal mining in the area that sulfur got into the clouds basically and rained down on the earth. And so the one supplement that I don't have to give my sheep is sulfur, because it's there.
Nice.
And the veterinarian came out. She's like, yeah, they need selenium, but they don't need sulfur. And this is why they don't need sulfur. Like, nobody in these hollers needs sulfur for their animals. So, and that's somebody who's like tuned into what's really needed for animals. Like, she's been the one she's an interesting veterinarian. She's been practicing for at least 30 years. We'll just be kind. I think 30 is a good number. And she's also got her own farm and deals with her own livestock. And she is a survival of the fittest perspective. So I will call her and she'll say, like, Nicole, I can come out and do the thing, but really, that you don't want that genetic passing on. So you could just let nature take its course.
Right.
And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But it's nice to have her, because she'll also show me how to give, intravenous shots or other things, because she would rather equip me to be able to do it than have to come all the way out to my house with her truck full of things.
Sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, am I mistaken, or I had heard at one point that a lot of the hair sheep grow faster than the wool sheep. Is that correct, or am I off on that?
The answer is I don't know, because I never looked at that aspect, but they do grow fast. They're ready in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
6 to 9. I go 9 usually for butchering, 8 to 9.
How many pounds do they yield at 9?
Of finished meat?
Finished, yeah.
30 to 40 pounds. It's not that much.
Bad.
If you cross a St. Croix and a Katahdin, you get a bigger yield than if you go straight up.
Okay.
So you want a Croix-Tahdin.
Yeah. So you get the hybrid vigor on that F1 or first generation hybrid. That's interesting.
But it's like a small local deer here.
Yeah.
And the only way for me to bump that up would be to grain feed them. And that's not my goal at all.
Sure.
Now, another benefit is that they're more likely than most wool sheep to browse as opposed to grazing. Is that, have you found that with your sheep?
They do browse for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're it's almost like a mix between a goat and a sheep, where you're like, you've got the wool sheep and you've got the goat, and the goats want to get out all the time, but they browse really well. And the wool sheep tend to graze more and be a little bit less apt to browsing. In my experience and what I've seen from people is that they've been happier with the hair sheep because they'll get up a little bit more like a goat. They'll climb up the trees a little bit, put their front hooves on and browse.
Yeah. They'll eat straight up blackberries.
Oh, wow.
Too. I mean, the vines, they don't care about the thorns. They love privet. They love box elder. So they will, we cleared a lot of ground with them. And one of the reasons I was so resistant to sheep originally on my homestead was that I needed to clear ground. And so I got goats, which got out and got on my roof multiple times. One time Christmas Eve, Santa Claus was there. Nope, it's the goat.
It's a goat.
Right? It was 100% the goat, but that did happen on a Christmas Eve. But they don't. So the hair sheep do test the fence more than the wool sheep.
Yeah.
But they don't get out as much. They're not like a goat's only goal is to figure out how to get out to something else and cause mischief. And I actually kind of admire goats for this. And I think it's funny, but other people get mad about this. The sheep aren't doing that unless there's a reason they really want to get to the other side, which is going to either be it's the season for that, so to speak.
Yes.
Or it's, I'm pretty much done with this forage here and that forage over there looks better, so I'm out. Or scared of thunder, scared of something would have them try to get out. So we just actually so right now all the boys live with each other and their dad, and all the girls are at the other one for obvious reasons. And so some of the boys are testing the fence, and typically those would be the ones you cull.
Yeah.
Except for I would like them to go to market on mid-October. So I would like them to be a little bigger. And so Tactical's trying his hardest to keep them, because everything I know about sheep, most of the work is done by Tactical as far as the rotating and all of that, just to be clear about who is raising the sheep. I do more of the medical stuff. He's doing the day-to-day most of the time. So now he's stringing 3 strands of wire to keep him in. They're still skipping the fence. So they went to re-education camp, which is hard fencing and then wire on the fencing. And then he set up an area where the hard fencing looks broken with like all of this wire.
Yeah.
And somebody tried it.
Ooh.
Somebody tried it. And then we'll see how they do. They've just gotten out of the re-education camp. And the reason you do it that way is if they hit the wire and run forward, that means they can get out.
Sure.
But if there's a fence there, that happens a couple times and they start pulling back when they get shocked, which is what you want.
Uh-huh.
So,
well, additionally, those fences typically are, you're using something like a cattle panel on T-posts. So it's grounded.
Uh-huh.
So now they're getting the shock through their head, oftentimes
all
through
their nose. Yes.
Onto that grounded cattle panel. So yeah, I sent Tactical a text the other day with a video of somebody who was using intermittent. They had, I think, 5 strands, and it was permanent fencing, unlike yours, but they were intermittent, hot, negative, hot, negative. And then they had, or ground, I should say, but then they had that grounded as well. So even if the ground wasn't working properly, if the animal touched 2 of those lines at once, they get zapped hard. So I thought that was pretty clever. And on that topic, what is some equipment that is like must have, or something you learned about equipment that maybe somebody going into this wouldn't know?
Okay. So after the show, after I get home, I will email you the list of equipment.
Oh, great.
Which is specifically the kind of woven wire or stranded, like the strands, the reels. We've tested 4 or 5 different kinds of reels, all sorts of different wire. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I will say this. We've gone from the Premier 1 fence charger to a Cyclops 12 jewel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cyclops is the best
Yep.
charger out there. I got a few months ago, I got accidentally met the developer of Cyclops, the guy who invented the systems inside of it. And they're so simple and so robust. And so he sat there for a while. He was this, I don't know, ridiculous, eccentric engineer type, but he sat there and explained how they work and how he's built them. And they're very, very robust. They're very well built.
Yeah, what I want in a charger is something that doesn't go bad once a year
Yeah, right.
and that works all the time, no matter what.
It's a novelty.
Right.
And even with that, we have 2 fence chargers in use and another one spare at all times, except for somebody has our spare one right now. But it's like 2 is 1, 1 is none. If you talk about that in the whole self-reliance side of things, very true in things like fence chargers, drenchers for your sheep, because we have kits for bloat, we have kits for a wound, we have kits for birthing that we can grab and go. And some of those things, right, you want to have, it's like grab the birthing bag,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier. We learned that the hard way, of
Yeah.
course. It was the running around getting all the pieces instead of dealing with the animal.
Yep.
Taught us not to do that. But the fence charger is really key. And then if you can have a perimeter fence and then subdivide, that is better than what we had to do, which was use them to clear, to find the perimeter fence, to assess it if it needed to be replaced, which in most places it did. If you can have that in advance, your whole life is easier, because then if they get out of the paddock where you want them, they don't get out. And that's something where I think it depends on the land you have. Like the challenge we have is it's really, really steep and rocky, and it goes up and down.
That is hard.
And it's great once it's cleared for sheep, but getting it cleared was a total effort. We'll just say that. Nightmare maybe might be a better.
Yeah.
I was trying not to say words I shouldn't say on a podcast, but
I remember about a year of tactical, rack and fracking up the hill about, whatever the next thing was that broke or didn't go the right way. It took quite a while.
And coming down with like branches in his hair.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yep. Blackberry brambles like up in his hair and in his beard, and scratches all over his arms. Yeah. I remember, I mean, I was only there a tiny fraction of the time.
And every time it was rack and fracking 100%. The whole first year. So the sheep came and we were so excited. We'll never have to mow again. It'll be great, right? And because you know how fast the grass grows here.
Yep.
And the rain stopped the day the sheep arrived, and it did not start for about 4 months. And there was one memorable time where Tactical he was like, twice a week I had to mow this grass for 2 years. And I get sheep, and then it doesn't rain. And he was like buying hay for the sheep. So he was really mad.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's kind of what guy's law is it? It's not
Murphy.
Murphy, yeah. Good old Murphy. One of his many laws. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, essentially.
It's 100% true. So we have had, in my opinion, the need to mow behind the sheep too much.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is we were just needing to make the pasture back into pasture, which it has been, the succession has happened on its own because the sheep eat, and then we knock down what's left before it can set seed. And then what came out of their manure as seed is what they ate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then whatever seed bank was there is also opened up for us. But we went out to Polyface a few weeks ago and did the tour, and we're able to talk to Daniel Salatin, and Tactical is really keenly interested in this whole how much do I have to mow thing, because his opinion is you always have to mow. And my opinion is I feel like if we could more intensely graze, we could get a cycle going, but we'll still have to mow, but it won't be
right
as crazy. And then he asked Daniel, do you mow? And they were like, he was like, yeah, if the grass gets too tall, you have to run the bush hog if the cattle aren't eating it fast enough. And this year it's rained a lot. So we've done more bush hogging and haying than we've, needed done in past years. And Tactical turns to me and goes, see? And I'm like, okay, let's restate the question. And then I explained what we were doing. And Daniel said, well, you're either overstocked or you're understocked.
Mhm.
What do you think it is? I said understocked.
Yep.
But that first year we were overstocked even with only 11 because it just didn't rain and the grass didn't grow. And I think that's something that can be hard to figure out. At first, it's like people say, how many sheep per acre should I have? I don't know. It depends on your acre.
Sure.
Mhm.
Like out here, it looks like you could actually have quite a few sheep per acre with what I'm seeing out there. But when it's dry scrabble and sagebrush, it needs more acre to get enough food.
Sure.
And
Yep.
you learn that by observing the animal.
Yeah, I've had several people who I've talked with, and people who are getting into homesteading oftentimes want to go full bore into it.
You're right.
They're really excited about it, and they go and they do the calculations. How many sheep can I have per acre? And they get generally too many, because you can expand as your soil improves, but if you haven't improved that soil and you're not willing to immediately start spraying, USDA recommended fertilizers on it, you're not going to get enough output from it. And so my general recommendation is, even if you're a little bit understocked, start with that and get the whole rotation thing down with sheep or whatever you're going to be using. If you're understocked, it's better because they're not going to be pressed for food where they're going to be trying to escape. And then you can just grow it out naturally. And if you have to, you mow it, you hay it, you do whatever you have to for a little bit until you figure out that cycle and their work starts improving the soil. And then you just naturally add.
Mhm.
So they're going to have babies.
You're
That's
right.
what you want.
Exactly.
And you can, to an extent, you can kind of control that and grow it as it makes sense and cull as it makes sense, rather than I'm going to buy all the sheep and we're going to have all the sheep. I don't know. That's what I've seen. What is, you started with 11 sheep, and you had, what was it, like 10 acres?
Well, we have 16 acres at the paddock, like the pasture that's next door to us.
Mhm.
I've got 3.2 at my house, and we had 2 more around base camp, and we had access to Nighthawk's roughly 2 acres of usable land.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And we ran them through the woods. Like, we ran them all over the place.
Sure.
And so we had a lot of space for those sheep, and it wasn't enough that year. It just, it was poor pasture, so the nutrition was crummy.
Sure.
And then no rain and just nothing coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we only had 11 to start with. And, I think we had 11 for 3 months before we processed down to 4, 5.
Oh, wow.
Because it was just the young ones. It was time to process them. And then we had the next round of births. So that seemed like way too many sheep for what we were doing. And then as the pasture improved, now, and after talking to Daniel Salatin, Tactical he cut his hardest paddock in half and rotated them, because the other thing is we're rotating every 3 to 7 days. Ideal would be every day, but when it takes you,
it's a lot of work.
So the way they have it set up, it takes, probably half an hour or less to do the next paddock, because they have permanent electric fencing and they can just run the strings, and the cattle are trained to one strand. And you're not running 2 strands, and they're not, they have some craggy stuff there too. But what he realized after that, I think, is that if he does fewer days more intensely where he can, then he's actually going to speed up the development of the pasture.
Yeah.
And that's so he immediately cut his worst paddock in half just to see what would happen.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like I'm just spitballing here. And run one strand across just to divide it. So then at the end of the 2 days or whatever you have them on there, you just pull that off. So it's roughly the same amount of work, but you keep them in one spot, more condensed.
Yeah, and if they skip
period.
that one strand, it's like they skipped that run. It's sort of that's what Daniel said. He's like, you do your big paddocks and then run one strand, and they'll probably stay on that side most of the time.
But if they don't,
if they don't, they're in the bigger paddock and they don't get out.
Sure.
So yeah.
Cool.
And that's why it's important to get off your rear end, people, and go out to other people's homesteads and see what they got going on and talk to them. Like, do the tours. I just saw a tour over at Caney Fork Farm. out
There is
there.
a
They're
candy
doing
corn.
they're doing some sort of a tour next month.
Yeah, Carrie Brown just sent me an invite earlier today on that. I'm like, oh, there's somebody else in
Did
my
you sign
county. I have not signed up yet.
I
I
signed
need
up.
to. Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm planning on going. I just saw it come through. So
Well, I met their marketing guy at the state fair last week when I was out for holler roast, and he was using the tasting station I was going to be at before me. So I'm like, hey, try these regenerative meats. They're awesome. And I'm for when we serve food at the events we do at the Holler Homestead, I would want to source as much locally or from our own homestead. That's what we've committed to.
Sure.
And so it's sort of an elevated food experience, but now there's a regenerative meat farm right there. So I've got the Hofgrid Meat Company, and then these guys, they did some hard salamis that were pretty delicious. And when we do a charcuterie platter, that's great. And then I was talking to him about, he said, you do sheep. And I said, yes. Do you have trouble selling them? And I said, not really, but I'm probably not selling at the scale you are. And he just mentioned that, of course, the people who buy their sheep love it, but a lot of people don't know how to cook them.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And so I thought, well, we need to start doing more of these, like how to cook what you grow sorts of things.
A sheep cooking class.
Sheep cooking
That would be
class.
great.
Yeah.
Well, because my neighbor who came to cheese class, I gave them lamb and she said she cooked it and it wasn't very good. And I said, oh, use these spices and do it that way. And she said she went home and it was amazing.
Mhm.
And so as farmers, as producers, we need to remember that and maybe start putting some recipe cards in with stuff or
Good
something.
call.
Because that's, if you want to have the customers, they have to, and sometimes develop. But having those smaller scale livestock is I think it's a lot easier for a small family to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Although we're going to totally add cows now.
Need something to trample down those weeds, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. No, I education for the consumer or for other people in the community is so huge, because you can't sell a higher quality product unless somebody knows why it's a higher quality. And sheep is different. I had some sheep sitting in my freezer for I think close to 2 years because I'm like, I could figure out how to cook this, but I don't have time right now.
I can't even.
Yeah. Can't even. So every time I think about it, I was like, oh crap, I've got something else to do. I don't have time to look into recipes for cooking this up.
I will put you on my 10 sheep cooking email thing that's going to
Nice.
everybody who bought sheep for me this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
But education
That's
is
a thing.
always a battle.
Yeah. It's because you want people to buy sheep from you twice. It's like, okay, here's how you cook. I cooked a leg this week.
Yeah.
And you would think, after your busy weekend, Nicole, why would you cook a leg of lamb on your Monday? Because it took me 15 minutes. That's why. Defrosted, I just did a dry rub. I didn't even stick the garlic cloves inside it that everybody does. And then I put it in, it's a clay pot called a Romertopf, which is, I learned about it in Germany, but it's called clay pot cooking here. And it's like a terracotta pot, and you get it wet and then you put things in it. Like you don't have it full of water, but you get it wet so it soaks in.
It soaks it up, yeah.
And then you cook slow and low. And so this was not a medium rare leg of lamb. It was a falling off the bone,
Ooh.
just perfectly moist, garlicky, oniony, rosemary. And you put like a cup of white wine in the bottom with some onions. Oh, it was delicious. And, people are missing that because they're afraid of the leg. It's like being afraid of the turkey at Thanksgiving. It's like, it looks big, but it pretty much just cooks itself, which is nice.
Yeah. So something we kind of, banter around about quite a bit on the podcast is the idea of subtlety. So this thing worked for me, or this thing didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Have you run into some things where if somebody were to try what you're doing, either it wouldn't work, or maybe they need to understand a subtlety that you've run into that could be helpful in their case?
That is a wonderful question that I don't have an answer to very quickly.
That's all right.
I needed foreshadowing on that one. I'm telling you. Okay, so
Surprise.
a subtle thing.
This is what happens when you don't send us questions.
And that's okay. So I'm trying to think related to sheep or anything.
It could be to anything. I was thinking sheep, but if you've got something where you're
I
like,
do.
yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
so this is, it's just because I just taught the cheese making class.
Oh yeah.
We did it was a day of making cheese while learning about how cheese works, while learning about the history of cheese, while learning how to also fold foraged food into the lunch we did, and the cheese tasting with cheeses from all over the world.
Nice.
Okay, so it was like all kind of folded into one thing. And the reason it was, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
does.
Okay, the reason it was done that way is when you make cheese, you heat up the milk to a certain temperature, you put something in it, and then you
And
wait an hour.
Yeah, sure.
And
You got
so,
time.
yeah, so you got time. You got to fill the time, right? So, we taught. So I did what I would do in my kitchen, which is I started the thing that's going to take the longest, the first, and then the second longest, and then we did the lunchy thing, and then we did the fast one, and we got to the end of the day, and I said, "Any questions?" And one of the participants, big eyes, said, "It's a lot, Nicole." And I said, "Okay, so let's back up. The subtlety I didn't explain is, how does this work in a day-to-day kitchen?"
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and the answer is, you're probably not doing 3 cheeses at one time.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to walk away with you able to do farmer's cheese, paneer, feta, and chev,
Wow.
which teaches you all of the skills, all of the basic skills of cheese making, from culturing to straining to making curd to cutting curd to cooking curd to forming cheese. It does
All of it.
all of the steps, and you come away with multiple cheeses. And I said, here's how I do it. I think about a cheese in terms of how long it dominates my kitchen, so I can't do anything else in the kitchen. A feta dominates my kitchen for about 6 hours. So a feta is a great Saturday cheese when I have something in the crock pot.
Sure.
And so the way that day goes is I go to the farmer's market, I come home, and then I start the feta and I do other things. There's already something in the crock pot. I finish the feta, and dinner is a saute I can do with the crock pot.
Nice.
And the feta is now settled, right? However, the cheese that takes the least time in your kitchen is the chev, which takes 12 to 18 hours to culture. But what you do is you just finish doing your dinner dishes. It's about 8 o'clock at my house when that happens. You heat the milk. That takes 20 minutes. So now it's 8:20. But I wasn't there while the milk was heating. I was off brushing my teeth or whatever I'm doing at that time of night. You put the rennet and the culture in, and then you go away. You know where I go? I go to bed.
Yeah, right. Just let it sit.
Yeah, just let it sit. And then I get up in the morning, and while I'm drinking coffee, I strain it through a cloth and hang it. And the whole process takes me 5 to 10 minutes of my actual time.
Yeah.
And so the key thing, or the subtlety I didn't teach people, was like, how do you assess your day and what you're producing in the kitchen from scratch, and how it all works with each other without turning into a bomb, which, as Ryan can tell you, it sometimes turns into a bomb for me to learn this, because he's seen my kitchen in bomb status before.
Your house is always perfectly clean.
Always perfectly clean. Yeah. But the cool thing with the addition of the Base Camp Lodge is I now go down to the Base Camp Lodge to make the cheese, and then I cook the dinner at my kitchen at my house, and that's actually better. But that's how I did it. And once I did that, she was like, okay, now I see. Now I see what, and I'm going to start with the chev, is what she said. And I said, great. They're also getting a 10 email about how to make cheese as a follow-up, just sort of one step at a time. Because I think a lot of times when we know a lot about things, we teach these classes and it's a lot of information, and that's good. It's like you're paying for the information. But then if we don't have a way to come back and say, okay, remember, to make cheese, these are the steps. You have to curdle the milk. You have to heat the milk, curdle the milk either through culture or adding an acid.
High level.
Coagulate the curd into bigger curds, cook the curds, strain the curds, age the curds, and that's cheese. That's good. Sort of the process. So the longer we're doing the regenerative thing, the more we have to remember to back up and say, okay, when I was a baby homesteader and it was just chickens, and I thought I was never going to make it to bed every day because chickens were so much work, what changed from that to chickens became easy and part of the rhythm? And part of it was infrastructure. Part of it was, how does it flow into your day? And we need to
Yes.
talk way more about how things flow into your day than we do.
Mhm. No, I like that. And, part of why we've started doing the Resilient Living podcast is because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that are really good. They really have their stuff down on, home defense, or they really have their stuff down on some topic. And when some new person tries to step in there, they just get clobbered by the information. They're like, oh, you didn't know that you should have this thing or that thing. And, there's even really great homesteading podcasts. There's lots of them, but a lot of them have kind of covered the base stuff, and that's years ago now. And, there's kind of a need essentially for somebody to come in and say, okay, here's the simpler stuff again. Here's the things,
the baby steps.
Yeah, all the things that we kind of take for granted. For me, like, one of the things I take for granted is that my chickens do a bunch of work for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, their chickens stink. Their chickens dig up their flower beds.
They cause a lot of work for them.
They cause a lot of work, a lot of headache. And
Mhm.
not that it's perfect. My kids let the chickens out when they shouldn't, and then leave the garden gate open. It happens. And so we didn't have any lettuce this year. But largely,
that's what having kids is all about.
That's right. Yeah, they're learning too. They're, I have to take a step back and try not to get too upset at them for doing dumb things, because I did dumb things. But I guess my point being, we do a lot of this because it's good to take a step back as somebody who's experienced, who's done a lot of these things, and go, if I was just learning what questions teaching about solar, I have to step back and go, most people don't know Ohm's law. So I probably shouldn't just start talking about volts and amps and watts without any explanation whatsoever. I should probably fill in the blanks a little bit, unless I know I'm talking to a crowd that knows some of those blanks already.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that the world has changed since we were baby homesteaders.
Mm-hmm.
And they have different tools available to them, which is really cool. Really, really cool. But also, they should be the voices for the new home cut. You know what I'm saying? Telling your story while you're starting to become a homesteader is going to link more people with what's available now. Mm-hmm. Because when I think, 18 years ago, when I was a baby homesteader, it was a very different world. There was a backyard chickens forum where I got yelled at a lot. And almost everything I learned was out of books.
Yeah.
Because the online was there, but it just wasn't. YouTube hadn't quite come into its own. Well, now we're at this frustrating time where all the information is there, but it's basically hidden from us by the algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have all of these fake introduction to blah, blah, blah videos and things coming out there where I look at that and I'm like, step 4. Okay, they got that from AI.
Yeah, right.
It's like AI took 2 things and mashed them together, and now they have a video and it's a bunch of crap. So it's hard. You have to figure out how to navigate that.
Yeah. And the sorting out the garbage from the real. I have to be careful not to, present what I've got as like, oh, it's always good. Cause I'm doing, like I kind of, my niche is how-to videos on certain things. And I'm talking about what I have figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not necessarily talking about all the ways I screwed it up before I got there. And that's, I think, a big thing. And the other thing is, the whole, I'll just use the trad wife thing as a example, right? You've got these women in like, really cute dresses walking around making sourdough all day while their kids are, I don't know, daycare or something.
Right.
Like there's no kids getting their hands in the dough. What's going on here? But it's this making an unreal expectation. And that's what people are seeing. And they're going, oh, homesteading, it's easy, it's fun, it's healthy, and it's just not accurate. So this might not be as exciting as, watching Instagram reels of people make sourdough. But hopefully we're bringing some much needed context to the situation.
So my topic, build abundance, not burnout, which is sort of the general topic I've been giving speeches on this year a lot. I have like a homestead revenue stack and these other things that go in it. On the way over here, because when you drive, you get that quiet.
You think.
And you can think.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that no matter what, with that as my topic, the answer is not that homesteading is easy. Like if you're coming to my talk to find out how not to work hard on your homestead, you came to the wrong talk because you end up working hard on your homestead. You can set up things to make it easier, and you should design it with that in mind. But homesteading isn't going to be easy.
No,
It's
work.
by nature, it's not. Unless you have a paid staff homesteading for you. I guess maybe it's easier then. But,
There's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it looks so nice, and it is. Like I'll post pictures of my kids getting to do fun things, learning things that they'd never get to do in school. You know, if my 10-year-old's having a hard day and she needs a break, she can go out to the tree fort and have it to herself. Like that's a huge perk. Or, you know, that I constantly catch them sitting in a window bird watching. Like,
cool.
They've named every single bird in our yard and they can actually tell them apart. So yeah, there's something that is kind of magical about the lifestyle, but it's easy to burn out. It's easy to get stuck doing things you don't want to do, and you can't just not do it. You can't go, I don't feel like locking up the chickens tonight. I hope a raccoon doesn't come tonight. I hope the bobcat isn't around tonight. You know, you end up with tragedy if you do that. And that's just reality on homestead, and you still lose things. We've lost so many chickens or ducks or whatever else. And you've got to raise new ones, and that takes a while, and you don't have eggs during that time. So
you also don't have them during the molt. My ducks are on strike for 45 days right now.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Are you bringing up some new ducks?
So I was collecting eggs last week to do that, and I ended up feeding them to all the people this weekend.
Oh.
And I'm not getting more duck eggs right now, so no. But I was going to see if Emily Hoff had fertilized eggs that she could bring out, because she's doing a present. So we have an open house that's free on Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m. If anybody listening wants to come, it's livingfreeintennessee.com RSVP, so I know you're coming. But we have a potluck where if you bring something to share, then it scales. And then Emily Hoff's husband's going to talk about how he built his own like standalone solar to plug his charger in for the animals that they rotate, right? So, so hopefully I'm having her bring some eggs out if she has any that are fertile. But if not, then I'm going to have to wait till probably November, which is the best time to hatch ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, it's actually time for us, because I haven't brought new ducks for a couple years onto the farm, and my ducks haven't also. We had one baby duck this year, but he disappeared. So I assumed that a cat discovered the baby duck.
Yeah, likely.
Yeah. So,
well, Nicole, I think we've covered a good amount of ground. We've been going for about an hour. So if you've got any closing thoughts, feel free to let us know. But otherwise, we'll go once around the horn, talk about what you do, how people can get a hold of you. Your elevator sales pitch, I guess.
My elevator sales pitch is thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm excited that somebody's trying to break stuff down the way you are. It'll be interesting to see what develops as you guys grow. So thanks for having me on. I do a podcast, and it's Living Free in Tennessee on your podcatcher or livingfreeintennessee.com. We are in the process of opening our homestead to more people. And if you're interested in connecting with us on that, the best way to do it right now is through my podcast website. Get on my weekly mail, and then you'll find out about these different events. We have paid classes. We have almost monthly meetups. There is no September meetup, and at the meetup, it's always a potluck plus somebody from the community sharing information about something.
Nice.
So October will be the next one after this one, and that one will be milling wood. So that should be a fun one. Anyway, that's what I do. And if you are available October 4th and 5th, come out to the Self-Reliance Festival. We've got a bunch of great speakers talking about freedom, building freedom into your life, self-reliance, self-defense, homesteading, solar, assuming you make it. Yeah. And he gets an asterisk every time. And we even have an SRF kids and youth program. So that's out in Camden, Tennessee, selfreliancefestival.com.
Awesome. And people are asking where you're located so that if they want to go to one of the get-togethers.
The Holler Homestead is in Lancaster, Tennessee, which is very close to Center Hill Dam. So
Okay.
about an hour east of Nashville.
Okay.
Not too far off 40.
Yeah. Well, and I've obviously been to a lot of the get-togethers and things. Amazing people. You've got a great community. So if anybody's even, within an hour and a half or so, I'd highly encourage you to go out for the get-togethers just to meet like-minded people, because it's so valuable to do that. And Nicole, you've got a great community already. It's like a plug and play community that people can get involved with and meet people who are kind of already vetted, we know are good people. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And we're excited I know I'm personally very excited to see the growth of the Holler Hub and everything you're doing there. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I'm excited to see how that shakes out. So Jared, do you want to give your information?
Sure. I know I've been really quiet this one. My name is Jared Wilson. I own Resilient Living, everything you see behind me. You can find us at resilientliving.com. You can follow us on, I don't have my banner running. There we go. Resilientliving.com, YouTube, Resilient Living, Facebook, Resilient Living, Instagram, Resilient Living, TikTok at resilient_living.
Darn
I
TikTok.
know. I was so upset. So we sell everything from books, ammunition, bags, freeze-dried foods, solar, small solar setups, water filtration systems, medical supplies, and just come in and have a good conversation and have some free coffee. And yeah, that's what we do.
Cool. Well, my name is Ryan Steva. I have the homesteadconsultant.com. You can find pretty much all my stuff there. And my name is kind of ridiculously on the nose, so I think it explains itself, but I try to help people stay away from, or I'm trying to think of the way to put it. I should really get this pitch going better. I help people avoid some of the big mistakes as much as possible, and really get them started on their homestead or dialed in on the homestead that they're already on. I even help people find land and figure out what property might be good for them. But all my stuff is out on the web, easily findable at thehomesteadconsultant.com or on YouTube, The Homestead Consultant. If you look that up, you'll find me. I've got some other socials, but I don't use them very much. So YouTube, I've got lots of DIY type stuff on YouTube. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very, very much for joining us. This was really, really fun. And we will join back on next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. All righty.
Thanks.
Have a great one.
Bye.